Welcome into the Locked On Knicks podcast. The New York Knicks beat the Indiana Pacers 138-129 behind the big three of Immanuel Quickley, Quentin Grimes, and Obi Toppin. We'll tell you how that happened right now on Locked On Knicks.
You are Locked On Knicks, your daily New York Knicks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Big Knicks win over the Pacers. Obi Toppin, Immanuel Quickley, Quentin Grimes combined for 107 points. But first, I want to thank you for making Locked On Knicks your first listen today and every day. And I remind you, we're now available on all platforms, including on YouTube. So wherever you watch the podcast or just listen to the podcast, remember to subscribe. And if you're on YouTube, hit that notifications bell so you never miss an episode. But who's talking to you? I'm Gavin Schall, your favorite play-by-play broadcaster's favorite play-by-play broadcaster. And man, this would have been a fun game to call. Defense optional, the New York Knicks roll over Indiana 138-129. Rollover is probably overstating it because it was a fairly, not even fairly. I mean, the Pacers were leading halfway through the fourth quarter. It was a bit of a nip and tuck game because the Knicks mostly decided on that defensive option to check off no, to not play defense for most of the night. But it didn't really matter because of the sheer firepower that Grimes, Quickley, and Toppin brought to the table. I'm going to start with Quentin Grimes because he had a career high 36 points on 14 of 23 shooting, 5 for 13 from 3, 3 for 4 from the line, 6 rebounds, 5 assists, 3 steals. And I think it was his shooting maybe that stood out more than anything to me in this one. It was spectacular. I feel like he's had about 6 chances at a 4-point play this year and maybe has converted 2 of them. I'd have to go back and double check that, but the guy always misses the free throw on the 4-point play. But just his this is something I know whenever Prez comes on, he talks about it in terms of prospects. So if you've been listening to him all week, talk about draft guys, maybe this is something he mentioned. But just the ability to self-organize and under less than ideal conditions to get your mechanics right. And we saw that from Grimes a number of times. I mean, the play that really stood out to me, I think it was second or third quarter, just had a leaning pull-up 3 where he ended up about 4 feet in front of the line when he finally did land. But just the core strength that it takes to catch and get his mechanics correct, essentially in midair on the fly, is pretty incredible. And then the athleticism from him. I mean, down the stretch of this game, he absolutely cooked O'Shea Brissett on an isolation, scoring with a scoop finish. Did the same thing to Jordan Nwora, just mishandled the pass. Nwora kind of bit on it, tried to go for a steal. Grimes went right by him. And we see that now from Quentin Grimes over and over and over again. And it's something, if you follow this podcast throughout the year, I've talked about with Grimes where I've wondered at different points if he got the type of leeway that RJ Barrett has to just shoot the basketball, right? To go into the lane again and again and again and just and take 18 to 19 shots in some games. Would Grimes's efficiency trump RJ's, given that he's an infinitely better shooter, given that he's a much better finisher at the rim on to be clear, far more limited attempts. So that's the question is, would that efficiency translate? And maybe the biggest thing is a much better interior passer than RJ Barrett, makes much better decisions than RJ, even at points if he's leaned kind of the opposite direction that RJ has a problem into being too unselfish at points this year. And look, we need a much larger sample size from Grimes because even in this game, right, like he scores 36 points. And you think of someone scoring 36 points in the NBA, you think of a guy just cooking in isolation, like over and over and over again, toasting his man. That wasn't really it for Grimes, right? As I said, it was a bunch of transition threes, bunch of attacking closeouts as an off-ball guy. And then a little bit like here and there, like winning off the dribble against his stationary defender. But by and large, that's not something he's doing. And that's something that we really haven't seen him do when he doesn't get switches, right? Like he can occasionally, like he did with Brissett, like go after a bigger guy. The next step for him is saying like, all right, you got, I mean, in this game, it was not a great defender in a Ben Mathurin, but you have a like heighted defender on you. Like, can you go take him off the dribble? And to me, like in this postseason, but particularly next year, that's what I'm going to be looking for from Quentin Grimes. But I don't know. It's still, I would lean towards, I don't think it's going to happen this year because it would just be too much of a shakeup, but I would be curious what this Knicks offense would look like if Quentin Grimes started over, I guess Grimes has already started, so maybe it would be Josh Hart starting over RJ Barrett. But my point is more so Grimes taking over RJ Barrett's role. I want to get to Obi Toppin in just a sec, but first I want to just kind of zoom out on Quentin Grimes right now. 23 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists over his last 7 games. Some questionable competition in there, certainly. Houston, not great. Washington, Indiana, a slightly elevated G League teams at this point in the season, but you also have a Cleveland in there, best defense in basketball. You also have Miami in there, right in that mix. You also have Orlando with all of their long athletes, and he has just been on an absolute heater. I think it's fair to say that his current level of shooting is probably a bit unsustainable, and the truth is more likely somewhere in the middle between what we saw from him pre-All-Star break and now what we've gotten from him post-All-Star break, which is probably more like a 38% guy on high volume versus the 50% guy he's been over the last like 12 or so games now, and not so much the 32% guy we saw over the first 50 games, or I guess 60 games or so of the season. But all this is to say, I predicted that Grimes coming out of that Rising Stars Challenge where he had a performance that was deserving of an MVP, would start playing with more confidence, and we've seen it come to fruition. And I'm hoping come playoff time, come next season, there isn't that cap placed back on it, right? Because that was kind of the issue with Immanuel Quickley early this season and Obi Toppin this whole season, where they had these breakouts that, at least in Quickley's case, proved to be very real. And then early this season, because Tibbs was sort of jerking around their role a little bit, they didn't get a chance to build on it. And I'm just hoping that when everyone is healthy, when everyone is back in place, I know Grimes isn't going to be scoring 36 points. I know he's not going to be taking 23 shots most nights, but I don't want this to be a situation where Grimes doesn't get to realize his full potential on the Knicks, because at least right now, like this moment, I would slot him as probably the 4th most important building block on this team, behind Jalen Brunson, behind Immanuel Quickley, behind Julius Randle. But he has been that good of late to shift the conversation. Obi Toppin's another guy where the discourse is inevitably going to be pretty interesting. Played 43 minutes in this game, 32 points, 6 assists, 3 rebounds, was 11 of 18 from the field. It was just scorching from distance, 5 for 12 from 3, 5 for 5 from the line. And I, throughout this game, what I kept rattling around in my head is, if you guys saw it, Zach Lowe of ESPN had an appearance on Ian Begley's SNY show, The Putback, along with our friend Jonathan Macri over at Knicks Film School. And he had this to say about Obi Toppin. This is a paraphrase, but essentially what he said was, I know he's only a 33% shooter from distance, but I buy the shot. I basically, that given Obi's status as someone who is a part-time player, and as we've talked about a lot in the past, his role is highly contingent on how he shoots on a game-to-game basis, and he plays with that what I would term basically like a 100-pound backpack of knowing that if he misses 2 threes in a row, there's a pretty decent chance Tibbs is going to pull him. I think under circumstances like tonight, which to be fair is probably abnormally low pressure, right? Like he's not typically going to have games that are meaningless in terms of the Knicks playoff implications, and tonight was that. But even if you take a middle ground, like he shouldn't have to play with the pressure that he plays with. And I think you see when he plays free and when he knows, like, all right, even if I miss my first few threes, I'm going to have the ability to get up 12 threes tonight. He shoots it with a different level of confidence. And I think over time that averages out into something like a 35, 36% 3-point shooter on pretty decent volume. And then when the 3-point shot's falling for him, he gets to leverage that in different ways, right? You see him like early in this game, aggressive coming off the dribble, like one dribble, spin move straight to the lane, doing his classic like fake DHO, curling around the left wing into a really nice finish. And it doesn't have to get overcomplicated for Obi, right? Because at this point, he's 25 years old. Like I think we're past the point of him being like a self-creation star, but that doesn't mean that he can't be a big scorer in the NBA. Obviously the rumor around the deadline. And this was something that Ian Begley noted in a recent report as well. The Knicks were open to moving him. They were asking for a probably exorbitant price to do so, which kind of continues the theme where they're saying, yeah, we'll trade our young guys, but you gotta at least by market value overpay to go get them. But that being said, I have the feeling if Obi eventually ended up on another team, like let's just say the Indiana Pacers, he would have a real breakout, and he could be someone that you could quickly see averaging 20 points per game on relatively efficient scoring, because his confidence definitely dwindles at points, and in turns parts of his game that should be there and should be pretty far developed at this point kind of get lost and kind of look choppy. There are still very, very real defensive issues there with Obi, but this was just an electric performance from him. And I want to quickly mention a way the Knicks used him off the ball as well. But before I do that, I got to tell you about our newest friends here on the Locked On Knicks podcast, and that is Ibotta. We're always throwing money at something: kids' school supplies, a new house project. The list goes on. It's time to stop spending your hard-earned money without getting anything in return. Enter Ibotta. You can earn cash back on every shopping trip. Ibotta gives you cash back on hundreds of grocery items, from produce to personal care to pantry goods. Either link your loyalty account or upload your receipt after you shop and get your cash back. It's that easy. The average Ibotta user earns $120 a year in real cash back. That could cover the cost of an entire shopping trip. Or you can use your cash back to buy that flight you've been eyeing, that game you're dying to go to, or that fancy dinner you've been craving. Ibotta gives you real cash back, not points. Other apps gives you points that don't amount to much. With Ibotta, you get real cash back that you can cash out to your bank account, PayPal, or gift cards. You can earn cash back on hundreds of online brands and retailers when you start. That includes Lowe's, Macy's, Sephora, Best Buy, and so much more. Right now, Ibotta is offering our listeners $5 just for trying Ibotta by using code LOCKED when you register. Just go to the App Store or Google Play Store and download the free Ibotta app and use code LOCKED. That's IBOTTA in the Google Play Store or App Store and use code LOCKED. All right, and with that, we are back on the Locked On Knicks podcast. Gavin Schall here with you, taking you through a big Knicks win. We are almost wrapped up on Obi Toppin, but I wanted to mention one play that really stood out to me, because in the past we've really knocked Tom Thibodeau for the lack of his creativity offensively, and I think particularly in the second half of this season, a lot more like fun, unique actions that really leverage the specific skill sets of the Knicks role players. And this was what I love from Toppin, right? Because we always complain like, hey, you're talking about a guy who was one of the best pick and roll finishers in recent college basketball history. The last 10 years, Obi is top 5 or so on that list. And he has essentially not been used as a pick and roll big man in the NBA pretty much ever. And part of the difficulty is Tom Thibodeau does not feel comfortable playing him at center, arguably with good reason. Given his limitations on the defensive side of the ball. So what's a creative way to leverage that diving ability of Obi Toppin while still having a Mitchell Robinson in the game? So Tibbs discovered it in this one. So Obi set a little down screen. So that's basically a screen where Obi's facing the baseline, close to the baseline. Immanuel Quickley curls around it, catches the ball in the corner, and Quickley has such gravity at this point that Obi's defender was leaning a little bit towards Quickley, and then Quickley's just able to slip the ball to Obi for a dive dunk. And because you're isolating it to one side of the floor instead of running it to the middle of the floor, and because you're already so close to the basket, it becomes such a quick hitter, there isn't really a chance on that type of a play for Mitchell Robinson's man to get involved and try to help on Obi Toppin. Now, I would argue that using Obi as a short roll big can pay a lot of dividends, because even on plays where Mitch's man can react to it, can't come up to Obi, Obi's a good enough passer that he can throw the ball over the top to Mitch for a dunk. He actually had an opportunity to do that in this game, messed it up, didn't really throw Mitch a good pass. Mitch ended up scoring later in the play anyways, but that is all to do about nothing. Point being, if you get Obi rolling to the rim, particularly close to the basket where the defense doesn't have time to acclimate, you're going to get a lot of easy points. And I just thought that was a really smart set from Tom Thibodeau. But it's worth talking about the other guy involved in that play, Immanuel Quickley, who was just 1 point off a career high, hit 39 points, 9 assists, 6 rebounds, just ridiculous efficiency in this one. 14 of 26 from the field, 7 of 13 from 3-point range, 4 for 5 from distance. So we've seen a 40-point game on 18 shots somehow now, a 39-point game on 26 shots. It's good stuff. Also 9 assists for Immanuel Quickley, who we talked about this when he played Summer League 2 years ago. Yeah, he wasn't on the team this summer, 2 years ago. Where he looked too good for this level. To be honest, that I think is the only way to frame what Immanuel Quickley did in this one. Andrew Nembhard, TJ McConnell, pretty much no one had a shot at stopping Immanuel Quickley. And what stood out to me, because we talk about his speed all the time, but what flashed in my mind was his decel, his ability to stop faster than his defender can, and to stop hard on one foot, and for his defender to just sort of stagger back. I mean, time and time again, Quickley started off the game just pouring in threes, right? Had 3 transition triples in the first 6 minutes of this ball game. Pop after pop after pop after pop. I'll keep throwing that name out there. Basketball God, smite me down if you dare. He looked like Steph Curry early in this game, right? Just raining home fire. And then as tends to happen, the defense was like, all right, we better step up on that. We better do something about that. And they started guarding him a little bit closer. And then Quickley's very fast, so he would often blow by his defender. And then they're trying to play that middle ground, trying to sit back. But then he just stops so quickly, no pun intended. You just see defenders start to fly by, and he's hitting floaters and he's hitting little push shots. And it's just easy for him at a certain point. And then late in this game, just casually hit a pull-up 30-footer to that was the dagger that put the game away. I think that made it 131 to 124. The Pacers never really had a chance after that. The one other thing to note with Immanuel Quickley in this one, or actually I'm going to note 2 other things. We mentioned the creative set to get Obi Toppin the roll dunk. They got creative with him on another one with Quentin Grimes, where this reminds me of again, sacrilegious, but I'm going to use a Warriors comparison, where Steve Kerr for about a decade now has had Steph Curry and Klay Thompson screen for each other. And if you've watched the Warriors for any amount over the last 10 years or so, you know that just creates absolute chaos in a defense because you can't really switch it, because Klay is 6'7", and Steph is whatever listed 6'3", probably a little shorter. Steph will toast Klay's guy because he's just going to be too quick for him, and you're not going to be able to keep up with him on an island unless you're like a Paul George or a Kawhi Leonard type of flexible defender. And then if you're Klay and you put Steph's guy on him, he's either going to shoot right over him from distance, or he's going to get middle and hit like a pull-up fadeaway midi over him. And that worked for the Warriors over and over and over again, particularly when Kerr would throw in secondary action off of it. And then you don't even have to worry about those two because someone like a Draymond Green or a Kevon Looney is just cutting for a layup. And now Quickley and Grimes don't present that type of threat yet because those two are the 2 best shooters of all time. While Quickley and Grimes look like it in this game, generally they are not in that category. They're really good shooters, but they are a few tiers below that. But you can leverage their gravity in similar actions. And in this case, it was Grimes curling around a Quickley screen, Grimes ducking to the rim, and that sucked the defense in because we'd already seen Grimes get, I think it was 2 layups and that dunk off of cuts to the basket. So the defense was really respecting Quentin Grimes as a cutter and as an explosive finisher. And then Quickley just popped right out, wide open 3. Part of that was a Pacers team that was young, is already, I think, the 2nd worst defense in basketball and not even playing their best few players. So take it with a grain of salt. But my point is more so the process, more so the usage that worked really well, leveraging those 2 guys' abilities with each other. And then the one other thing I noticed from Quickley was really good chemistry with Mitchell Robinson in this game. when Mitch ran the floor hard, was able to get Nembhard on a switch, and IQ knew where he was supposed to go with the ball. But if you rushed it could have resulted in a gamble from a bigger defender who had switched on to Quickley and a steal. Instead, Quickley just took his time, let everyone get down the court. The Pacers didn't really have a chance to recover on Mitch, and then Quickley just threw this little subtle ball fake out to the left side of the arc, and then hit Mitch, pinning Nembhard under the rim, and Mitch got a dunk. And then another little bit of trickeration. I'm going to post his play on Twitter later, so check it out when you get a chance on the @LockedOnKnicks Twitter. Quickley had one late in the shot clock where he called for, like, kind of desperately, it was like really motioning his hand for Obi and Mitchell Robinson to set a screen for him. And Obi and Mitch just sort of looked at each other kind of confused, and then Quickley just took one dribble, just bombed the three. And we saw a play at MSG in college basketball. It was the Elite Eight, or it was the Sweet 16, where Kansas State did a similar thing against Michigan State, or I call it the longest yard play, where you kind of motion over to your coach like gets angry, like looks confused, and then your guy just dribbles up, hits a pull-up three when the point guard on the other team's head is spinning, is like, what is going on right now? I'm not 100% sure that is what the Knicks are doing, but if you have a chance to find that play, I think it was late third quarter, or I'll try and post it on Twitter. Go check it out, because I thought that was really cool. When we come back, we are going to just bounce around a couple of other guys and wrap this one up. But first, I have to tell you, and you know what I'm about to talk about if you've been listening to this podcast for a while, and that is our friends over at FanDuel Sportsbook, America's #1 sportsbook, and the NBA playoffs are almost here. So it's the perfect time to download FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because new customers get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. It's bonus bets back if your first bet doesn't win. Just download the FanDuel Sportsbook app. It's safe, secure, and super easy to use. Then you can bet on everything from the money line to points scored and threes drained. Plus, FanDuel even lets you combine your bets for a chance at a bigger payout with a same-game parlay. So don't miss the chance to get your no-sweat first bet up to $1,000 in bonus bets when you go to FanDuel.com/lockedon. That is FanDuel.com/lockedon to learn more. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, with that, we are back, third and final seg here on the Locked On Knicks podcast. Thank you guys for joining in on Locked On Knicks this morning and every morning. And if you enjoyed making Locked On Knicks your first listen today, maybe make Game to Game your second listen today. Every moment, every top performance, every result, Locked On Game to Game covers every game from across the Eastern Conference with local analysis that only Locked On can deliver. Follow Game to Game on Locked On NBA, available on the Odyssey app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. So I just want to finish off real quick. There wasn't a lot of room to shine for other guys in this game, but just a monster stat line for Josh Hart in a game where he only took 5 shots, only took 2 free throws, had 12 rebounds, 7 assists, 4 steals. The Knicks finished this game with 13 steals, just a ridiculous number. And Josh Hart, man, he was crucial to propping up the stat lines from Obi, from IQ, from Quentin Grimes, getting them easy shot after easy shot. And the other thing that really continues to stand out to me, I still don't know how sustainable it is, but it's been 23 games at this point. In Portland, he was shooting 30% from 3 on 2 attempts per game. With the Knicks, he's shooting 56% from 3 on 2 attempts per game. Granted, small sample size. Granted, most of them are wide open, but it is crazy what a change in environment can do for a player's ability to shoot the basketball. Granted, if the Knicks sign Hart to a 3-4 year contract, I would expect him to kind of cap out as like maybe a 35-36% three-point shooter. I'm pretty low volume, but that is still super duper impressive. Did I say Quentin Grimes? I meant from Josh Hart. That is what I would expect out of Josh Hart. Isaiah Hartenstein did the Obi move in this one, little fake dribble handoff, take it straight to the rim for the lay. That was great. And then just some big picture thoughts to wrap up. I mean, it's just so clear the depth of talent that this team has, and similar to what we talk about with the Memphis Grizzlies, and this was something over last summer we talked about a lot on the podcast, but the Knicks at some point are going to have to make some tough decisions, right? I think it seems like they're going to pay Immanuel Quickley, and those are going to be some fascinating negotiations. I mean, as we get closer to that, like, I don't know, does Immanuel Quickley's representation press the issue and say, hey, you know what? This guy's going to be an all-star. We want a max contract. We want a contract that represents the high end of what he could be. Do the sides kind of meet in the middle, like we've seen so many times with this Knicks front office, what they got done with Julius Randle, what they got done with RJ Barrett, and say, all right, we'll give you $25 million a year, 4-year contract. And that kind of represents your production so far, with maybe a little bit more upside, but not a crazy ceiling. RJ Barrett, his contract is not, I think it's tradable. I don't think it's an albatross, but it's not looking like a steal at the moment. And I think the further that RJ falls behind in the pecking order, like as soon as next season, if the Knicks think that Quentin Grimes is going to be the better player than RJ and maybe should be cutting into his shot diet, then do you have to trade him early? Is this the offseason to get off him before his value declines further? I don't really know, but the Knicks it's a first world problem in the NBA to be in the position the Knicks are in. Like, even if they lose to Cleveland in 4 or 5 games, like, they have an incredible depth of talent that even the most optimistic of us couldn't have foreseen coming into the season. And that is fantastic, but it's also going to bring up some hard questions for the Knicks. We will talk about that more down the road. Stay tuned for one final game recap and one final draft exploration this week with our friend Prez. Check out all of his work on the Strickland. But until next time, I'm Gavin Schall. We'll talk to you soon. I'm Locked On Knicks.